welcome. Welcome to week 3 of our Weave and Stitch Along. My name is Gabi and today's topic is flower power. You see a little example here with which shows what we will be doing today, and I can show you this a little bit closer. Take a look. That's our flower power of the week. We will learn 2 different stitches. This is the lazy daisy stitch and this is the straight stitch, and then we will make 2 flowers, 1 flower for each stitch, and then I will show you how you can add a few leaves around it to fill in some empty space. But before we get to that, let's take a quick look at what has happened in week 2, at least as far as we have it available as of the time of this recording. Again, it was just the results are really stunning. There are a lot of things that I haven't even thought of, and it's really a lot of fun to just see what people are doing and coming up with through our Weave and Stitch Along. Today I decided to show you a few examples of what people have been doing. All of these examples are on our Pinterest board, and if you don't see your work there but you would like to have it added, please contact me. Just send me a quick email to gabi@texasgabi.com or send me a private message on Facebook or on Ravelry, and we'll make sure that we get your pictures up there too. But it's already a very busy place, and I just want to, in this recap, quickly take a look at a few pictures that I want to highlight. There, it's really hard to pick and choose, but we have to stick in time here. Here, the first one that I would like to show you that actually stunned me is from Marcia. And when I made the design for the nautical flag, this was like, okay, how do I move the colors and this and that and whatever. And Marcia decided to make the motif in 1 color. And take a look at this. This looks completely different from anything that we have done with 2 colors, because you see here the 2 colors matching, and that gives it a completely different geometry to the whole design, which I thought was very interesting. Another one that I would like to show you is from Melissa, and Melissa started in week 1 to use a different, let me just move this aside here, to use a different background, and she actually said, oh, it just happened to me, but she chose this beautiful steel gray yarn for her fabric, and she has all these, I think it's bonbon colors, and just take a look at the colors that she chose and how they pop. And again, this is very different from the designs that I was showing. And even here this week, it really surprised me how well the diagonal stitches add to it. Almost gives like a shadow here on this one. So this was really cool to see that, and almost envy her for that gray background. I really like it. Oh, here's a really cute one from Becky. And Becky initially apologized because she said, oh, I was so frustrated, you know, my center was off, and so, but I finished it, and then I just decided to add a little leaf up here. And I think this is so cute. I totally love the color choices, and to just add that little leaf up there. If you need a picture that expresses happy, the word happy, I think this one is definitely a candidate for that one. The next one, this is by Lynette, and Lynette chose as a background the bone color from Karen Simply Soft, and it also almost gives it a little bit a metallic shine, a metallic golden shine, and just see how those the colors of her design just really come out very strong with this nice shiny background. So I really like that. Oh, this one is from Bonnie. And Bonnie, she made a whole bunch of motifs this week, but Bonnie experimented or explored a little bit with a completely different yarn that I would have never thought of trying. We think it's a baby boucle yarn from Yarn Bee, which you can buy at Hobby Lobby, and it's kind of a, you can see it here on the edges. It's a little bit fluffy, and it almost looks like it almost looks like snow. So, and then she wove the, then she embroidered the design onto that snow area, and it looks really beautifully wintry. Um, and the design just, you know, here and there comes up from throughout the snow. So completely different effect. And she says it weaves very well. I've worked with this yarn before. It glides very nicely, and it's actually, even though it's fluffy and fuzzy, it's actually very good to work with. So completely new idea. So if you're going for a wintry or snow landscape, here's an idea for you. Oh, this one, yes, this one is from Marsha, and Marsha likes to share. So she made, she turned, actually, I hope she stays with us, but she worked the exit strategy suggestion and made this little pouch, and she added a coupon. So this is a coupon. It doesn't say for what it is, but she added a coupon, and she will give that. She can imagine that this will decorate a little girl's, you know, that this is a little present to a girl at some point, and enjoy. What a beautiful idea. And it's not just a great idea, but also perfect implementation. I really love the how the dark sets up the white and everything brings out the design here in the center. All right, and one more thing here is the this is a, for me, a reminder to uh, tell you how much I appreciated how many people actually took on the challenge and braved showing the back or the reverse side of their work. Excellent, excellent job. And you know, we did this because a lot of embroiderers care that the back of their work looks almost as good as the front. And I have seen a lot of excellent reverse sides of work. So thank you for taking that challenge. Let's have some fun together. But it's also stunning to see how well people embroider. This is a delight to see. One more reason why I'm bringing up Hazel's approach here, and somebody else noticed that too on Ravelry. It's just like, okay, Hazel, yours looks a little bit different. You know, why are there no knots here on the sides? And what did you do? Where are you hiding it? I don't have a picture right here, but the right side looks good too. So this is like Hazel did the back of her work to perfection, and she actually told us what she's doing is when she's done with her work, she's taking a sharp needle and then working in by color the threads here and here. You can see it's almost invisible, but she's working the threads back into the embroidery, which is a superb form. And here on this side you see it here. So she takes the ends and weaves them carefully with a sharp needle back into the threads that she embroidered with, which makes it perfect. Anyway, I just wanted to show you these things. I hope you enjoyed this little journey. Again, take a look at our Pinterest board. Everything is up there. And the stories that I told you all come from either our Facebook group at the Pin Loom support group, and also on Ravelry at in the Looms to Go group, where we have great exchange and a lot of fun. So come visit, come chat, and share and post and what have you. Oh, last not least, there's one more idea. Cindy actually brought up a whole bunch of really good ideas that she shared with us while working. She said, "Hey, by the way, when you start working, check your work frequently." Actually, you know what? Let me show you this very quickly to you here with a little thread what she's talking about, because there are some, these are typical things that can happen easily and frequently. So just a few tips. she said when you have the slip knot, let's make a quick slip knot, and we just poke in somewhere here. I just want to do this for demonstration. Here's the slip knot. Okay, so make sure that with each stitch, particularly in the beginning, you check the back of your work. So if we do any stitch here and then check the back of our work, make sure that you don't catch the loop. Okay, and you can fix it. I just want to say that you can always fix it. If it happens, let me just show you. I'm trying to do this here for demonstration. This is like, oops, I got the loop here. If that happens, take a sharp needle and open up the knot when you're done with your work. Okay, and you'll always be able to release it one way or the other. But if you happen to catch the loop, number one, check your work when you do a stitch. Quickly turn it over and see if you caught it or not. If you did, say, oops, okay, let's undo the last stitch quickly. So that's of course the easiest, and that's what Cindy is suggesting. Or if it happens and you notice it later, take a sharp needle and open the knot here, and then you can just unwind the rest of the thread. Another thing that is relatively common is you do your stitches. Let's go back to the top, and I'm just poking through here somewhere. You do your stitches, yeah, looks good, and you do another stitch without getting tangled, and then you come up, and then you go down, and I'm preparing this in the background without showing it to you. So you do a few stitches, and then you come up and you go down, and now you take a look at the back of your work. Okay, and oh, there is a loop. Okay, so which means you didn't pull it through far enough, and that can happen. That even happens to very experienced embroiderers. The easiest way is that you just undo it, the few stitches until you get there. Here you go, and then just do it again. Don't worry about it. You know, if you notice it when you're all done and everything is woven in, you can just, you know, tie it down with a little string. But that one, what I want to say here is it will take time to learn about how to use the right tension. Okay, and this is where it helps in the beginning. If this happens to you, or even if it doesn't happen actually, just, you know, make sure that you sometimes just quickly check on the tension and say, yep, okay, I'm good, next stitch. Okay, and then, yep, I'm good, next stitch. And that way you catch them right away. If something goes wrong, let's do one where it goes wrong. This is like here, you come up and you see, oh, here's a loop, that's not enough tension. Okay, just pull it in a little bit more. See that? Okay, and then you keep on going. So these are just a few relatively common things that can happen and how you can fix them, troubleshoot them. Cindy, thank you very much for bringing those up and also providing the solutions for them right on the Ravelry group. I appreciate that. But that was pretty much the recap from week 2, and with that, let's get started with our week 3. Week 3 is titled Flower Power. Again, we will embroider 2 flowers here, and with 2 different stitches. This blue one is made with a lazy daisy stitch, and then the orange one is made with a straight stitch. That's a little bit easier, so we do the difficult one first, and then we do the one that's a little bit easier to work. These 2 stitches together give you a lot of power in designing your own designs even beyond flowers. And I will just tap a little bit into that with the lazy daisy stitch by using the single lazy daisy stitches over here as leaves. Anyway, before we can get started, let's take a quick look at the tool set we will be using today. I would like you to use at least 3 different colors. I have chosen the Line Brand Bonbon Cotton again because it just shows very well. I have for the flowers a blue and an orange, or this is more turquoise and an orange. And I had in the announcement I suggested to have a green. You don't have to have a green. I just want to show you the classy part today where greens are leaves are green, and you know, flowers just anyone. But you can if you don't have a green, just use any other color. You will get very interesting designs actually over here. We will also use a marking pen for the first time today. I will be using this Driz Disappearing ink. It's a little bit pricey, but I just really like it and allowed myself to be very lazy because it works really good. You have this, I'm using the purple end, which is air and water soluble ink. And it really disappears very nicely. So love it. But as we talked about in our getting ready, any markers will do. There are a whole bunch of markers in the sewing department available. And also you can use washable markers. If you use washable markers, make sure you you know, weave a motif and then try it out and make sure that it really comes out, that you don't have to deal with the frustration of I thought it would come out and I did all my work and now it doesn't come out. So anyway, then we have just the other essentials. We have our looms ready to go. We have a ruler to measure the lengths. Today the lengths will vary a little bit depending on what flowers you are going to make, because while I say flower power, I also want you to be creative. And you can even see here this on the example that you know, just this flower is not perfectly centered, and of course the leaves, they are all over the place. So today I want you to just be creative on the space that's available to you. Okay, last week we did the very strict follow directions, go here and there and everywhere. This week we do just the opposite, and I want you to be creative and just use the space that's available to you in your creativity. Now, flower power. So nature is actually an interesting thing because on the one hand, nature is, you know, flowers. If you look out the window and or look at some flowers, they're like they go this way or this way or this way or this way, but there is still some really basic rules to it. Actually, even better than flowers, I think there are. If you think of a snowflake, people say there's no one snowflake like the other, which might be true. It needs to be proven, which is probably impossible. But even though each snowflake is unique, once you look at the crystals and, you know, down to the crystal shape and organization and order, you know, that's where science just get really fascinating, because down deep when it comes to the order, there are basic rules, and these rules are very straightforward and very strict. But yet on the other hand, once you come out of it to the top of it and look at the designs of a snowflake, for example, they are beautifully unique. So what does this have to do with our week 3 weave and stitch along? We will use some basic stitches, new stitches, and those stitches are, you know, very strict. You do this, you do this, you do this. But I will say that each of your designs this week will be absolutely different beyond just the color arrangements. Let's get started. I think we want to get, yeah, I have the needle on here. So this week we want to get started on the hexagon. And let's take a look. we will start with the Lazy Daisy stitch in this turquoise. The Lazy Daisy stitch is a yarn eater. You will need a lot of yarn. For our session today, I will do 30 inches. And you say, wow, that sounds like a lot. Didn't she say short threads? Yes, I did. But you will see how quickly the Lazy Daisy stitch will eat it all up. So this is like 12, 24, and another 6 on our ruler. If you have a measuring tape, about 30 inches. And this time we make a slip knot right at the beginning, because I will also show you today a new way of starting the thread. Okay, I hope you can see this. This is what it looks like. So pretty close to the end, and then we will thread the other end right here. All right, and what we will now do, let me prepare the loom here and slide up the motif to the nails. There is, with embroiderers, there are several ways how to begin. And one is where people make a knot, like we do our slip knot, and then they start in a completely different area and have it sitting up here, and then they start working here, and in the end they cut off the thread and then they weave in the end. Why are people doing this? The benefit is that the knot is out of your way while you are working. And we will do the same thing on our pin looms, except we will use one of our many pins to do so. Actually, can we zoom in at this point, please? Okay, thank you. So here we go. And what I want to show you now is that what we will do is we will use one of our pins as if we were going to start our weaving. We'll put the slip knot on a pin and then we go under. Let me just do this and then I'll show you. We go on the hexagon loom, we will go between the nails right here, and on the zoom loom we will go between the fabric and the loom. Okay, and then here on the back side we're ready to work and nothing is in the way. And later on we will release that little slip knot and weave in the end. Okay, all right, so we have started our thread, it's secured, it's ready to go. Let's take a look down here. What we will need to do next is mark the area where we are going to embroider. I'm using a quarter coin. If you don't live in the state, a euro will do, or any other coin that's about an inch in diameter. If you don't have a coin handy, you can also use, for example, the lid of a milk bottle or any other bottle, or just, you know, print a little paper circle that has about the diameter of 1 inch, and you're ready to go. So I have my coin, and what I want you to do is put your coin anywhere a little bit off centered. Here's about the center. I will start here, and if you take a look at the sample, you can see where we are going. So I'm putting the coin a little bit off the center to the left. You can move it anywhere you want. And then we take our marking pen, whatever marking pen you have, hold the coin down with one finger, and with the other hand you just very gently mark the line of your coin. Okay, it doesn't have to be much, it just needs to be barely visible. Particularly when you use a washable marker, this might come in handy. Can you see this? Let me hold it up a little bit. So see, here's your circle from the coin, and that's enough for the work that we will be doing, all right? Okay, let's get started. Creativity step number 1. You have your circle. Go anywhere and find a center. And I just want to tell you one thing, that for this stitch, you don't have to be between the threads. You can go through the threads if you want to. For the center that we will start with, that's a little bit hard to see, so I'm just pulling this through. Okay, so here you can see this is like about the center. It doesn't have to be perfect, and most likely it is not perfect because we just put the coin somewhere. So for example, here in my case, it's a little bit less space here to this side than there is to this side, but that's just perfectly fine. All right, and here come the basic rules for the lazy daisy stitch. You come up, all right, and then you go down through the same hole. Okay, here's the trick. Don't pull it all the way. Only pull it until you have a little loop. You see that loop? Okay. This loop is a little bit big, but that's okay to get started. Do you see how the loop goes outside the ring that we drew with the coin? That's exactly what you want. Because now we want to fetch that loop. How do we do that? Anywhere on your ring, on the inside of the ring, come up with the yarn. And I'm doing this very slowly so that you can see. On the inside of the ring, through the loop that you have laid out here, come up and pull. Pull very gently, because at some point you will notice, here it's coming, that you start pulling the loop smaller. Okay? Hold the working thread away from the center and keep on pulling gently until you see how it forms this little loop. Do you see that? Don't pull too hard, just so that you have this little loop. That looks like about perfect. If you get something like that, that's about perfect. All right, now we want to secure that loop. What we will do is, and there are 2 different ways to do it. Some people kind of go back through the same hole that they came up in. For our pin loom embroidery purposes, I go over 1 thread, and I will undo this so that I can show you this. See here where we came out here? I go over 1 thread so that I'm outside of the loop, that way outside of the marking, and go down. Okay, and you will see what happens. Right now the thread is still very long, so it looks a little bit messy, but you will see in a second what's happening here. See how it secures the loop? I hope you can see this. I'm just wiggling this a little bit so that you can see it from all angles. So here is the loop that we made. We started having it outside the marking, and then we pretty much tie it down with this little come up inside the marking, go down outside the marking. And here's our first lazy daisy stitch. Let's do it again. I'll show you one more time. Come up through the center, okay, because that's where we want to start our stitch. And you go all the way up and make a loop and go down. Sorry, I'm wandering out of the camera. Go down the same hole. So this is a little bit like one of those groundhogs, like they peek up, and then there's like, weather is not good, weg, and they are gone again. So here's our loop, and we just pull it in enough so that it's bigger than the markings. Okay, the markings are right here. Let me see if I can show you this. There are the markings. Okay, and now I just go like a little bit down. Let me see how much it is on this loom. It's like about 2 or 3 threads down, and I bring the needle up on the inside of the marked circle. And then I pull the yarn through, and at some point the loop starts to get smaller. See that? And I just pull it enough until I have a pretty shape. About that looks about right. Okay? And now I go 1 thread over to the outside of the marked ring. Let me do this again. You don't need to do this. You don't need to lift this up, but I just want to show you this. This is where I came up, okay? And this is where I will go down. 1 over, okay? And then when I pull it down, it will tie down the new stitch. Here you go. Can you see this? All right, I hope. Okay, so here is our second lazy daisy stitch. Let's do it again. Groundhog comes up, makes a little loop, groundhog goes down, pull in just enough, just, you know, particularly in the beginning when you're still practicing, leave those loops, the starting loops, big enough, okay? And then you go like 2 or 3 threads over and come up through the loop. And we're going to fetch that loop. Pull it in just enough until it looks pretty, like a little petal. And then you go to the outside of the ring, 1 over the ring, a marking ring, and go down. And here's your 3rd stitch. Okay. Now let's take a quick look on the back side. You see that there's a lot of threads going here, and this is, you know, all this back and forth is what makes it a yarn eater. Okay, that's where all the yarn goes that we're using. So let's continue, and I think you get the idea at this point. We come up, make a loop, we go down, lay out the loop, go 2 threads down and come out on the inside of the marked circle, pull it in until you think it looks pretty, stitch 1 thread out so that you're on the outside of the markings, and go down. We just keep on doing this. You can turn your loom if you want to work in the most comfortable way. We come up, we go down through the same hole, lay out the little circle, bring the needle up on the inside of the markings, pull the loop just tight enough to look pretty, bring the needle over the marked circle, which is about 1 thread, and bring it down. All right, I want to show you something that might happen to you. We bring it up, we bring it down, and we lay out our circle. We come up on the inside of the loop. Oops, lost my needle. And now watch this. I'm pulling too long is what I'm showing you. It's like, oh, this is getting too small. What happened to my loop? My loop is gone. Okay? If you notice it right away, don't panic. All you need to do is go put your needle, the tip of your needle, through the loop and just wiggle. Okay? Gently wiggle and it will bring it back to size. Just wiggle, wiggle, and it will bring it back to size right here. See that? So it definitely helps if you pull the working thread away from the center when you decide for the final size of your loop. But if it happens that you pull too hard, don't panic. Just put your needle, the tip of your needle, through the loop and wiggle carefully, and the thread will go back and make the petal bigger. Okay? So that, I think, is the most common problem that people run into when they just get started. I'll show you one more thing. Let's just do one more stitch here. So we make our loop. Okay, we go through the down through the center. Okay, and then for whatever reason your loop gets too close, but you already have the stitch finished, or you say, you know what, I don't like it, I don't want to do this. Okay, no problem. Just release the thread from your needle and go backwards, stitch backwards. So first you have to take out here this little bow that holds your stitch in place. Here you go. And then here is your loop again. Okay, so stitch backwards. If you pull hard, you will only lose the maximum of one stitch. All the other stitches that you see here are already secured. Okay, so you can't really lose much. So, and at this point we'll just thread it in again and finish up. So here we go again, pulling it away from the center to get the best shaping. And we finish the stitch one outside the circle. All right, let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we have space for one more here, but it's pretty much up to you, and this is where the creativity comes in. If you like it like that, or you run out of thread and don't want to start a new one, you can decide, okay, I'm done. I will do one more stitch here, and just in your mind say what I'm doing while I'm showing it. Yes, come up. Yes, go down through the same hole and lay out a loop. Yes, come up through the big loop on the inside of the marking circle. Yes, pull away from the center until you like the looks of your leaf. Yes, secure your stitch by going over one thread to the outside of the circle and go down. Take a look. Here's your first flower. And here is a very important and very beautiful stitch. Again, it's called Lazy Daisy. Like with many other embroidery stitches, really, opportunities are endless. All right, if you decide that this is too much for you, don't worry. I want you to give it a try, but if it doesn't work, no problem. Try again later, all right? If there's too much going on for you on this stitch, I want you to try the straight stitch. The straight stitch is a little bit easier to work, and it's not ugly either. So take a deep breath, and let's take a break. Do something easy. That's the straight stitch. Okay, for the straight stitch, of course, we need another circle. If you see this here, so we need to make another circle. Let's put our quarter anywhere over here, and I just put it for demonstration purposes over here to match the sample. If you want to put it anywhere else, please go ahead and do so. And I have the marking stitch. Hold the coin down and just very gently outline the coin. And again, whether it's the coin or a bottle cap or what have you, that will all work. And again, it doesn't have to be much visible. You just need to have enough to see where you're working. You see, this one is actually a little bit more than the first one, but don't worry if it's less than that. You can still see it. You just need to know approximately where you will be going. All right, for the straight stitch, let's measure. I think I had 16 inches. Let's start with 16 inches and we just make it fit. So this is like 12 and another 4. I'll do a little bit more. Here we go. If you're not short on yarn, just take a little bit more. And we do the same thing for our straight stitch flower. Say that 5 times fast. Make a slip knot very close to the end. And here comes the pin loom, special pin loom starting method. And since the flower is right here, we'll just use a pin that's close to that flower to secure the end of the yarn for now, right this, and see that? So here's our flower, and there is our slip knot on one of the pins. You know, I just recommend, you could put it here and then go all the way across, but that will make your back look pretty messy in the end. So we'll just recommendation is stay close to where you will be working. Okay? All right. Let's go here between the fabric and the loom to the bottom of the side. See this? I just pull this through anywhere on the left or the right of the pin where I secured it. And that's really all you need. You don't have to worry about it too much, okay? So this is what the wrong side looks like. Here's our working thread ready to go, but it's nicely anchored here on one of the pins. All right. For this flower, we do something very similar. Find the center, or find a location close to the center in the, now this one is a little bit off center, but I think I will just leave it so that I can show you what's going on here. Find about the center of your marked circle and bring your needle up right there. Okay, now it's really easy. All you need to do is go straight. Remember, it's a straight stitch just over the marking of your circle and go down. Okay, and here's your first straight stitch. come up in the center again, and I say here just go two threads over, 2 to 3 threads over. I do 2 here for this stitch, and go over the marked circle and go down. And whether you go clockwise or counterclockwise, it absolutely doesn't matter. Come up in the center, go 2 or 3 stitches over, and make sure you're on the outside of your marked circle, and go down. And we have a little knot here, knotty knot. There we go. And yeah, guess what we will be doing exactly? We're going up through the center, a little bit over. We stay on the outside of the circle that we marked on our fabric, and go down. And we just keep on going. Up in the center, about 2 to 3 threads over, we stay on the outside of the circle and go down. Do you already see how this forms? Center, over the rim of our marked circle. Center, and 2 threads down, 2 threads over, and we go down. Come up in the center, and that's really all there is to it. I wish there would be more I could teach you on this one, but that's pretty much it. For this demonstration, I chose to use the center for all stitches to come up. You don't have to do that. You could, for example, just make a little inner ring and an outer ring and just have like smaller straight stitches going around a small circle. But I decided that if you need a little break here from the Lazy Daisy stitch, that this is very relaxing to do. And here's already our last stitch. Okay? And take a look at this. Here's our straight stitch flower. Okay? Let me see. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 10 stitches on this one. About 8 stitches on this one. But I think if I put this down, you can see it even better, how it starts to bloom on your pin loom. All right? And at this point, I would actually like to encourage you, I'm not showing it here on my sample, but I would like to encourage you to pick your favorite flower, either the Lazy Daisy one or the straight stitch one, and make a third flower right here. Maybe even in a different color. You know, if I were to do it, I would probably choose for this one a yellow color. So make this one if you can, make this one, and then choose a third one to put right there. So that on your motif you have a total of 3 flowers. If you only want to make 2, that's fine. I just would like to encourage you to try things out a little bit more. All right. Let's go. Week 3 fell out. Here we go. One more thing that I would like to show you, and you can see here on the sample, are the little leaves. If you decide you're not a big fan of the Lazy Daisy stitch, there's one more thing that I would like you to try, and you will see how easily you can actually make a big difference on things. Let's just, yeah, I think I want to use 18 inches for this because it's the Lazy Daisy stitch, and I'm going to use green. Again, if you don't have a green, please use any other color that you do have at hand. You know, yellow leaves would look good too, or purple or what have you, so be creative. I'm probably a little bit old-fashioned in that I just like leaves too. be green when they're supposed to support flowers. So the same thing, make a little slip knot. And at this point, all you need to really decide is only where you want to start with your leaves, and pick any pin. I'll just pick one right here for no other purpose, that it's random. And then again, we go between the fabric and the loom to the reverse side of our work. And we have this anchor here, so we're good. And the yarn is where it needs to be, on the wrong side. And now just anywhere, again, and this is where your creativity is challenged, anywhere on your fabric, get started and come up. You can make it just random. I just poked anywhere. Okay, so here's where it comes out. I want to show you leaves that are made out of one single lazy daisy stitch. So we come up through one hole. Remember the groundhog? We want to go down through the same hole after we take a little tour, but we leave that circle up there. And now anywhere, so probably like 3 threads in any direction, come up and pull away from where you came up and went down until you see that you have a nice shape. Can you see that? So here, that's a pretty nice shape, right? So, and then we do the same that we did before, and I'll show you again. This is like where we came up, and to secure it, I just go 1 over. Again, here's where we came up, I go 1 over, and to go down. And here's your first leaf. Take a look. That's all that there is to it. Let's do another one. Anywhere, just come up, take a little loop, go down through the same hole, and pull it in just enough to have a little loop. So now you don't have, of course, the marked circle, but you still have the loop, okay? Use your creativity, you know, about 3 threads in any direction. Just come up, make sure you go through the loop, see that, through the loop, and pull it up, pull it away from where you came up and went down to get the best shape for your leaf. All right, and when you like it, go 1 thread over and go down. It doesn't have to be straight. I'll show you in a second here. Well, I'm not sure if that, so see here, it's a little bit off because the leaf is just in a direction. It's not diagonal or back and forth. It's just going somewhere. So the tie down stitch is a little bit off, but that doesn't matter. It looks good, and that's what matters. Okay, I want to show you one more thing. You can start playing with it. So anywhere, let's start a 3rd stitch, come up, run around, maybe, and go down through the same hole, and then about 3 or so stitches over. This is actually twisted. Here we go. You can press your loop down on the fabric. Depending on what yarn you use for the fabric, it actually just sticks enough to stay in place. And so here I come up, make a nice shape. But now watch. I want my leaf to have a little stem. So instead of going over 1 thread, I go, let's say, over 2 threads. Let's see if that's enough. So we go over 2 threads and pull it down. No, I want to do 3. Let's do 3. That will look even more dramatic. So I'm stitching one back, go over three threads for the tie down stitch. And I hope you can see this. Now we have a little leaf that has a stem to it. Okay, so all you need to do to have a leaf with a stem is have the tie down stitch go a little bit farther out. Let's do that one more time. I come up here, pretty much anywhere. We go down through the same hole. Come up about 3 rows in any direction, or 3 threads in any direction, about. Come up and pull it away from that stitch, and then you go over about 3 threads in any direction to make a leaf with a stem. There you go. Okay. I'm pretty much out of yarn at this point, so I'm just releasing my needle here. And just for comparison, you already see here's the sample that I had made before. And here is what we worked on the right, is what we worked together during this session. And you already can see that there's a different expression. So with just very minor modifications, you get a completely different picture. So each of your pictures that you will be working this week will be absolutely unique, right? So let me just finish this up here. When you now get your work off the loom, remember that you have to lift off the slip knots from where you started your embroidery as well, okay? So, and so that you don't forget them, I suggest you do that first. Just slip them off with a needle like this, 1, 2, and 3, and then you can do the regular slip off of your hexagon. So we just lift off the first side here. And then we can get the rest off just with our hands. And we can put the loom aside. And as usual, wiggle. The wiggle is good when you, because it's, you know, it's all one strand, and if you wiggle a little bit and pull on, tug on the corners, it gets the, since it's just one strand, it evens out the strand, and here is your completed hexagon. Isn't it pretty? All right, let's oh, I almost forgot. Let's take a look at our messy back here. So this is what our back looks like right now, pretty messy. There should be 3 slip knots, and we can just open them up, 1 and 2 and 3. And here's my recommendation for securing those threads. For the flowers, you have 2 ends in matching colors. Let me say this up front. There's enough going on that you could just take your threads and weave them in. No problem, okay? But since you have matching colors on each flower, you can also use the knot method. Or, as some of you have been doing, you can use the knots and then still sew it in. So here I just want to show you double knot, so the first to the last one, and they come out pretty close, so this will almost look like an extra stitch. So Let's make a knot here and clip it off. And then we do the same thing for the blue one, or turquoise one. It's a little bit more tangled in. Just let's do this backwards, right this, no problem. Here we go. And then also here, make a double knot, beginning and end. Make sure that you don't tug it in too much, but also not too loosely. And we cut those off. And then the last two threads from the leaves, I will just weave them in. And you can weave them in here with a matching color, or if you don't, you know, it's not forbidden to just go over here to the flower and use that. But for now, I will just, you know, weave it in here a little bit. And I'm sure that Hazel Rose will beat me to it and make it as pretty as can be. Hazel Rose, I put you on the spot. So I just personally, it needs to be functional, it needs to be good, but if you just weave it in like that, it will do the job, and it's not too ugly. All right, so here we go. It's all woven in. Doesn't look too bad, does it? All right, here we go. All right, to me this is not perfect, but this is good enough for the back of our motif. This week you don't need to post a picture of your back. We just care about the creativity of your motif, and I'm really looking forward to seeing lots and lots of very pretty motifs and colors and flowers blooming. All right, okay. All right, Zoom loomers or square loomers, it's time to wake up. No more snoozing. It's your turn. So let's take a look. We can put this over here and just set up everything ready to go for working on our square. So we're going to make 2 flowers, and first we are going to make something in turquoise like this, and this will be our first stitch, which is the lazy daisy stitch. All right, later on we will take a little break and make a little bit easier straight stitch here in orange, and lastly we will decorate with single lazy daisy stitches and make some leaves around it. All right, let's get started here. First off, I want to show you a new method of starting. We will begin with our turquoise yarn. I'm using, or you know, whatever color you choose for your first flower. The lazy daisy stitch is a yarn eater. So for this motif, we will take 30 inches, which is 2 times the length of a ruler, and then another half. And this is like about, so don't fret if you're over a little bit. And if you're under, you can always connect the thread, but that's a little bit more tedious. This one will definitely do. And then what I want you to do is make a slip knot relatively close to the end, to one end of the yarn or thread. So make a slip knot, and you can thread the needle on the other end. Here we go. Whoops, that was not good. All right, our thread is ready, and I want to show you a new method of starting. With regular embroidery, there is a method where you make a knot and then keep that at the top, and And then, so here's, just imagine, here's your knot. And then you start doing your embroidery actually far away from that knot, over here, for example. All right. And then when you're all done, you clip off that knot and weave in this end. We will be doing something similar on our pin looms. However, we have an additional luxury, which is we have all those pins that can pretty much save as an anchor for our knots. So what we will do is we take our slip knot and just put it on any of those pins. Can you see this? Any of the pins. And then with the needle, we go between the fabric and the loom to the back of the side. Okay, hope you can see this. Let me pull through the thread right here. So here's the slip knot over one of the pins. Okay, and I went between the fabric and the loom. And let me now turn it around. See, here's your working thread now ready to go. And you can pull it gently. It is anchored. Since it's anchored on one of the pins, it's really convenient, and you don't have anything here in your way when you start working. Okay, so multiple benefits comes in very handy. Our yarn is ready. What are we going to do? And this is where we will need our coin. I'm using a quarter. You can use, you know, if you're not in America, you can, or in Europe, you can use a euro or any other coin that is about 1 inch across in width, or you can cut a paper template about 1 inch, or you know, a milk bottle lid is also perfectly fine. All right, and for our design, just put it anywhere off center. And if we just use this one as a guide, for our hexagons, we have woven the blue lazy daisy flower a little bit to the left down from the center. So we will do something similar here. Here's about the center. We're going left down. That's where we put our coin. And now we're taking our marking pen. Again, I'm using the air and water soluble ink of this Driz pen, but you can use anything else as long as you have tried it, sample it, swatch it, make sure that it really comes out, because you are marking the right side of your fabric. If it doesn't come out, yes, it will look ugly, and then you lose your pretty work. So hold the coin down with one finger, and then just very gently mark the outline of that coin onto your fabric. It doesn't have to be very strong, just enough that you can see it. Okay, let's close the pen and take off the coin. And here you can see it. You can just barely see it, but that will be sufficient. You don't have to have that big splotch there. You really just need to see the outskirts from that marking circle. All right, and now we are ready to start. Okay, our yarn is ready, and we have an area that we want to work in. And all we need to do, and this is where the creativity starts, just guess about where the center is. I'm just coming out here somewhere close to the center. Since this is kind of a free form where we put the coin, I didn't count any threads, so it's most likely that there is no real center. You can poke through the yarn, but if you have a hole, just go through the hole as I do right now and pull the thread through like this. Can you see it? Okay, there we go. All right, so that's step number 1. Come up in the center. And now I want you to lay down the thread in a little round circle like this. And for this stitch, we go down right away in the same hole that we came up in. All right, so start pulling, and of course so lay out your loop here, And the nice thing is the fabric will actually is fuzzy enough to hold it down a little bit. So you came up through the center, you went down through the center, and now just gently pull the loop smaller, just small enough that it still looks something like this. And let me explain to you what we do here. Keep your eyes on the marked circle that we have. Here is the yarn or thread loop, okay? And particularly in the beginning, I want you to have it rather big like this, because that will help you with what we do next. What we do next is pick any place on your circle and come on the inside. Let me see if I can show you this. Come out on the inside of the circle within your yarn loop and pull up. Okay, see what I'm doing here? Inside of the marked circle, inside of the yarn ring, and now gently pull. In the beginning, just do it very slowly, because at some point you will notice that the loop that you made starts to become smaller. See that? Keep on pulling and take a quick look where my working thread points. It points away from the center while I'm pulling. See that? And that helps to shape the new petal of our flower to the best possible. Pull until the loop is small enough that it really looks like a little petal. I think this is probably close to perfect. Okay, and then the next thing we do is, we will secure the loop here on this side by going over the loop and going down. I show you one more thing here. Let me slide this back just for demonstration purposes. See, here is where we came out. Some people go down through the same hole. For our purposes, I suggest that you go over one thread to the outside of the marked circle to go down. Okay? See if we can do this. I'll put the little loop back in place because I just took it off or lifted it up for demonstration purposes. So I'm now one thread over on the outside of the marked circle and pull it down. And here we are. This is our first stitch. So just to recap, here's the loop. You can see the loop right here. And then here's this little dinky bow that comes out on the inside of the marking circle and goes down at the outside of the marking circle. And that is what holds our little loop here in place. All right? And here's our first stitch. Are you still with me? All right, let's do another one. Same thing. We come up through the center. And it really doesn't matter whether you work clockwise around the circle or counterclockwise. Try it out, see what works best for you. We're in the center and we're going down through the center. It's a little bit like one of those groundhogs. They peek out their holes and then maybe they run around a little bit to make a little loop, and then they run back into their burrows. And that's pretty much what we are doing here too. So here's our loop, and we will pull that in just enough. And here you can see, so here's our loop, and you can still see the markings. From the previous stitch, now we go like, let's say we go 2 threads down. Here's the needle. About 2 threads down, and we come out on the inside of the marking circle through the loop. Okay? And then we gently pull. Keep on pulling. The working thread pulls in the opposite direction, away from the center. That gives you the best shaping. Okay? And you just pull long enough until your petal looks pretty, like this. You can adjust it, wiggle it a little bit with your fingers, and then pull a little bit more if needed. Okay, and that looks pretty good. And so now we secure that little loop by going to the outside of the markings which is about 1 thread over to the other side, and then pull it all the way down. Here we go. Here's our second stitch. Doesn't that look pretty? I hope you're having fun. I know in the beginning this might be a little bit stressful, but you also have instant gratification when you see those little petals form and when they start going around the loop. So let's do a few more. I'll do a few more a little bit faster. We come up through the center. We go down through the center. And you can lay out your loop now or a little bit later. This one is a little bit stubborn. So here we go. Oh yes, that looks good. There we go. Okay. So again, here's the markings circle. Here's the big loop. We go like 2 or 3 stitches down from where we worked before to come up on the inside of the marking circle. We pull the yarn through away from the center to get the best shaping for our little petal. And then we secure the petal by going to the outside of the markings circle and go down. All right, let's practice this one time together. I will give my directions with delay, and you can watch this and in your mind just speak out what I'm doing. Yes, come up in the center. Yes, go down in the center and then pull it through a little bit to lay out the working circle. Yes. Pull your yarn up through and then pull it in gently to make the loop, the petal loop, smaller, pulling the working thread away from the center to get the best shaping. Yes, we are securing the little petal loop by going down 1 thread over the marking circle. Excellent, very good. Let's just keep on going here a few more times because at this point that's already all there is to it. It will take some practice, and probably the biggest practice is to choose a good tension for your work to make the petals look pretty. But you know, just keep on practicing and don't fret. That's the beauty about flowers. Don't fret if it doesn't look exactly the way you wanted it to look the first time, because that's where nature just works with what it gets. Okay, so if it doesn't go the way you want it to go, it goes in another very natural way. Very simple. All right, let me show you a few things that might happen. Okay, so here we just finished another loop and I'm coming up in the center and I'm making I'm just pretending to do the next stitch here. So I'm coming up in the center, going down in the center, and then let's see, yeah, we'll make one right here. When the thread gets closer, you can put the loop over the needle when the needle comes up, like I just did. I want to show you something. You pull and pull and pull and pull and pull, and you pull too much. Okay, can you see this? The loop is almost gone. It's like, ah, what happened? How do I fix this? This is like, no, it's not a loop anymore. It's not good enough. Okay, don't panic. This one is a really easy fix. With the tip of your needle, just go into the petal loop and wiggle it. Okay, the yarn will release and help you to make the loop bigger again, like this. Okay, here you go. All right, and you can just finish it as usual by going on the outside. Here you go. Okay, let's start another one, and I want to show you one more thing. So here we come out, and we go down, prepare the loop, and we go down about 2 from where we were. Okay, and this time I'm pulling it in intentionally, but I also finish the stitch. Okay, looks like a pretty stitch by itself, but that's not what you wanted. Okay, now what? No problem at all. Just release the thread from your needle like this. Okay, and then pull up the thread backwards 1 step at a time until you get to a point where you feel comfortable to pick up. There's absolutely nothing wrong. You can even pull the thread here. At some point, there's nothing to pull anymore, okay? Because all the other stitches are already completed. There's nothing that can come undone beyond that one stitch that you are trying to fix, okay? So here we need to start in the middle, so we have to undo 1 more stitch. And here you can see, while I'm rethreading this, you can see on the back actually, that's where all our yarn is going. Okay, when I said before that the Lazy Daisy stitch is a yarn eater, because you have a lot of loops going back and forth on both sides, on the wrong side and of course on the right side. Okay, so let's catch up here with our stitches. We come up in the center. By now you already know how it goes. We go down in the center. We make our loop. Just one note of caution too, depending on what yarn you work with, this loop might start to twist. So it's very important that you lay it out flat like this so that it does not get twisted. If you twist it by accident, you will see that it doesn't form those pretty shapes, those pretty oval shapes. Okay, at that point I suggest that you undo your stitch. All right, but here it's looking good. We're pulling away from the center until we like the shape. Go over 1 thread to the outside of our markings, and here's our next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do 1 more. Okay, so this design is for about 8. If you want to be done sooner, like if you want to say this is like, okay, I'm done, fine, because it's, you know, it's your creativity. The yarn is measured to make 8 of those little petals that will bring you around the circle. If you go like 2 or 3 threads down with each step. Okay, so last one, pulling away from the center and securing it by going over the line of the marking circle. And at this point, you're done. Just release the thread from your yarn, and here's your first little lazy daisy flower. Very unique. All right. At this point, some of you may say this is like, okay, she completely lost me there. I have no idea, or there's like, there are just too many loops and tangles and it's twisting. I'm done with it. No problem. I would like you to try. The lazy daisy stitch is not for all beginners. Don't get frustrated. I want you to give it a try, but if it doesn't work for you right now, just put it aside and try it later. You know, at another point, watch the video or read the instructions, make another motif and try it out. For those people, don't get frustrated, keep on going. That's why we are doing 2 stitches today. The lazy daisy stitch is not easy. It's not the easiest stitch. And I added this one here that you can see in orange. That's the straight stitch. And as the name said, it's straight, but it's also pretty straightforward to make and relatively easy to make. And I'll show you. So if you don't like the lazy daisy stitch, or it's just too much for you at this point, give the straight stitch flower a try. And you know, you can see the straight stitch looks a little bit like daisies, depending on what flowers you do. So this is like, or there's like the astera in autumn. So if you just fill a whole area just with those straight stitch flowers, it will look beautiful. Let's take a look at how to make it. We take for this one about, I think I had 14 inches. Let's do a little bit more. Oh, 16 inches, I think it was. It's in the instructions. And I lost my needle. I found my needle. All right, and we do the same thing that we did before. Make a little slip knot close to the end, to one end. Okay, and you can see it here on the design. The straight stitch flower is a little bit up to the upper right here from the center. So we want to stay close with securing our thread. So we just go over here somewhere and choose any of those pins to put our slip knot, so that we don't have to travel across all the, and just put it over and pull it in a little bit. And then again, go with your needle between the fabric and the loom to the back side of your loom. And here we are. Okay, so here's your working thread, anchored, it cannot run away, and you are ready to roll. Whether you put in the thread first or whether you mark the circle first really doesn't matter. So it's perfectly fine if you mark your work area first and then put on the thread or not. Either way is fine. So let's take a look. We'll put this, let's put this like over here. I think that will look good. Let's have this as reference. Here's our handy dandy marking pen. And again, hold the coin or whatever you are using down with one hand, and then just very gently mark the outline of your coin or bottle top or whatever you are using. All right, again, it doesn't have to be big, it just needs to be barely visible, just that it gives you enough aid. And you can show you here how little that interferes with what you're doing. Okay, so you don't want really this big smotch circle. You just want to know, oh, this is approximately where I will be going, and that would be good enough. All right, okay, let's get started. Again, another challenge for your creativity. Find something that is near the center of your marked circle and bring the yarn up. Again, it's anchored right here, and it goes over here to the center of your circle, and here we are. And now the straight stitch is very simple. It goes straight anywhere, start anywhere, to go straight over and out, outside, just outside the marked circle. Can see that? Okay, so I just wiggle it a little bit here, just outside the marked circle, and go down. And here's our first straight stitch. That's it. That's all there is to it. Let's bring it up in the center again, and then we will travel around. Either direction is fine. I will go clockwise, counting about 2 to 3 stitches up and going down. Okay, you see that? Guess what? Yes, we're doing the come up in the center, travel 2 or 3 travel 2 or 3 threads over, and just over the marked line of your circle, and you can turn your work if you want, and just keep on going that way. That's all there is to it. Okay, so the straight stitch is of course called straight because it goes straight. It is very popular. You can do a lot of things with it. The straight stitch is known that it can go, you know, pretty much everywhere in all directions. They don't have to be connected. You don't have to come out in the center. So you could have like a bigger circle and a smaller circle, and then you could travel on the smaller circle and go to the bigger circle, which gives you a flower with an open center. But for today, we will just continue to do what we're doing here, similar to what we did with the lazy daisy flower. Come up in the center, travel over a little bit, and go down. Come up in the center, travel over, and I think I did not calculate my yardage right, so please go with whatever I say in the instructions. But I think we can finish it here. Anyway, travel. We'll just make a few less. Yeah, 2 more stitches. Come up in the center. And just go far enough over the marked circle. I'm a little bit short with my yarn. I must have miscalculated. But you know, here again, you see, hey, this is good enough. It looks like a flower, doesn't it? So here we go. And here are your 2 flowers. Okay, here's the turquoise flower made with the lazy daisy stitches, and then there is the orange flower made with straight stitches. At this point, I would like to encourage you to pick a favorite, so either the lazy daisy or the straight stitch, and add another flower on your own. Okay, there might, in my design, there would be enough space here, down here, or probably even up here to make another flower or 2. And you know, if I were to make a 3rd flower, I would probably pick the yellow, but that's completely up to you. So this is pretty much pick 1 more flower. This is optional. Pick 1 more flower and add another flower if you wish to. I want to show you one more thing, and you can see it here on the sample. We want to add a few leaves. Now, how do you make the leaves? And guess what? You already know how to make them, because the leaves is pretty much just 1 lazy daisy stitch. Okay, so let's get started here. And there is no recommendation for the green or whatever color you choose. You can even make the leaves in yellow, which would make it look very pretty and refreshing summerly. It depends on how many leaves you want to make, is how much yarn you need. I'm just using 18 inches here right now, and when we run out, we're done. So again, thread your yarn or your thread, and have a short slip knot on the other end right here. And let's see, at this point, the leaves, and you can see there's pretty much no system to the leaves. That's where creativity rules. You start anywhere you want. So let's say we want to start somewhere here in this area. So I'm going to put the slip knot right here, right down here. All right, and it really absolutely doesn't matter. It just needs to be anchored. And again, I go down between the fabric and the loom to bring the yarn or thread to the back of my working area. It's anchored right here, and I'm ready to get my work done right here. Okay, so here is the creativity challenge. Make a leaf pop up anywhere. Just pick a place. You can't pick the wrong place. Okay, and we already know from the lazy daisy stitch that you come up in one place and you go down in the same place and make a little loop. Now you don't have the circle markings to watch out for. Okay, so you can lay out your thread anywhere you want, and then I suggest you count about three threads up in any direction, including diagonally. 2, 3, about here, and this is where you come up. So anywhere about 3 threads in any direction. Pull away from where you did your first stitches to get this pretty shape. Okay, and then go over 1 thread, the same as we did before, and secure the loop. Here you go. You can wiggle it a little bit in place, and here's your first leaf. Okay, you can see here that this securing little bow goes a little bit off. It does not go in the direction of the leaf, and that's perfectly fine. That makes it natural. Okay, let's do one more, and I just poked up here by accident, so let's start our leaf right here. Come up anywhere you want, go down through the same hole, pull gently, lay out your loop in the direction that you want your leaf to go. Count about 3 threads, 3 to 4 threads. I'll take 4 at this point, and come up within the loop and pull it gently. Pull away from the stitches that you worked first to get the best shape for your leaf. Go over 1 thread and go down to secure. Here you go. Here's your second leaf. Does that look pretty? All right, I want to show you one more thing, which is a little trick. So just come up like anywhere, pretty much on your working fabric, and go down through the same hole. Lay out your loop. I will lay it out right here. And just get this extra thread so that I can show it better. So here's your loop. Okay, count like 3 or 4 threads. I want to make this one a little bit bigger. Here we go. Pull away from where you made the first stitches and pull it in until you like the shape of your leaf. And now we don't go over 1 thread, but we go over 2 or 3 threads. Let's try 2 for the securing. And take a look. Now you have a leaf with a little stem on it. Can you see it? I need to turn it a little bit so that you can see it better. That's how you make a leaf with a stem. Just extend the securing stitch in the end. Okay, let's do one more. This area is pretty wide open here, so we want to have one leaf right here. Come up anywhere, go down in the same location, lay down the loop, make sure that you don't twist it, okay? And then you can count like 3 or 4 threads in any direction to come up through the loop. Pull the thread away from the stitches that you worked, and we make one more leaf with a stem. So we just, instead of going very close, we just go out a little bit, okay, over like 2 or maybe even 3 stitches, and then you can wiggle it out, and here is another leaf with a stem. Okay, so at this point I'm pretty much out with my yarn, so I'm releasing, sorry, I'm releasing the thread here, and then let me make sure that I don't lose my thread again, my needle again here. Okay, and here's our design ready to go. You can see, and you know, even if you compare it with the sample here, you can see that each motif with these flowers and leaves will be absolutely individual. Each of them will have a different expression, and I'm so much looking forward to seeing the results that you will be working this week. All right, all we need to do is clean up the mess in the back and secure some threads. We slide it off. Make sure that your slip knots from the embroidery yarn will slide off nicely too. Okay, so just carefully slide off everything, including the slip knots from the embroidery. Here we go. All right, and we can put the loom aside. So, and right now this looks pretty messy, but don't despair, we'll clean it up. Let's start with the flowers, because each of the flowers has a beginning and an end in the same color. All right, we can release the slip knot right here, and there's enough going on here on this now that you can actually start weaving in the ends. But I want to show you both. For the flowers, I will still use the knotting method. So take the beginning and the ending thread of each flower and make 2 knots to secure. Pull it tight, and then you can even now at this point sew it in, or just clip it off with like about 3/8 or whatever you feel comfortable with. Okay, so, and this takes care of our straight stitch flower. Doesn't look too bad, does it? All right, and then we take care of our blue flower. Release the slip knot right here and take the beginning and the end of your blue or turquoise flower. Make a double knot. 1, okay, this is very long. Here we go. 2, pull it tight, clip it off. All right, and then for the leaves, I will just weave in the ends. Okay, so we'll thread those, and I'm sure you can easily beat me on that because I'm not good in sewing in ends. So I'm just weaving in those ends. It's for me important that you know, they hold together, but other than that, it's kind of, you know, it doesn't have to look too pretty, and it will actually not look too ugly either if you do it that way. So here is one, and then let's thread the other end. And you know, you can see probably what I'm doing. I'm just weaving through some of the back strings between the embroidery that we did, and pretty much whatever comes to mind will be fine. So, and then we clip those ends. One, two, wiggle, wiggle. And here's the back. This week we will not have the challenge to show your back, but you know, if you take a look at that, this is relatively quickly done. It looks decent. It looks good enough. All right. But what we really want to see is, of course, the front. And doesn't that look happy? So here with our 2 flowers and a few leaves, you see there's enough space that you can add more if you want. I just want to show you here the concepts and how it works. But please add more flowers, add more leaves as you wish. So here are both motifs from this week, and let's just take a quick look here. Can we zoom out a few clicks, please? Great, thank you. All right, let's just recap here very quickly. Here are our pin looms. And here is the word. And doesn't this look like summer already right away? So right here, oh, I just see here the ends. Somebody asked, you know, can we weave in the ends? Yeah, absolutely. I suggest on the embroidery motifs that you weave in the ends, because when we later on put them together, we'll do that with different yarns, and we don't have to worry about extra ends at that point. So here's what we got, and I think that looks already really pretty. Let's just put the yarns next to it that we used today. So there were 2 flowers and the green. We also used a marker, and we used a coin to help us make little circles. But that's pretty much all there is to it. And maybe you just want to make a few extra of those flower motifs. Lots of applications what you can do with it. Remember the things that we recapped from week 2. So I'm pretty sure these will make pretty pouches and ornaments and what have you. So this concludes week 3. Thank you very much for watching. And please take pictures of your creations and post them either on Facebook or on Ravelry. If you need any help, please email me or PM me on Ravelry or Facebook. Email is gabi@texasgabi.com. And I'm looking forward to see all your creations. And I also look forward to hopefully see you next week. Thank you. Auf Wiedersehen. Bye.